Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome, replay viewers. My name is SovannPen. I'm a marriage and family counselor here in Portland. Hey Jen, good evening. Hope you've had a good evening. And so, as I, hey Jules, how's it going? I'm in landscape mode. Hopefully, I'm not upside down. Could someone, could you give me a thumbs up or say yes if I'm right side up? Okay, good. Um, So this one's gonna be fun. Uh, this is from a blog post, one of my early blog posts, um, and this is for couples, for families where uh, it, you just miss each other uh, at the end of the day. Hey Nicole, this is about listening to your spouse um, when you're tired, uh, when you just want to vent and one or the other of you is trying to fix the problem. And oh great, uh, I won't have to try to play it for you guys if you're familiar with that one. So I'm just going to kind of read this blog. You can find it at my website, SovannPen.com. But before I read this blog, give other people a chance to get on here. Any questions about communication or marriage, especially around um, improving communication with your spouse, or maybe if you have a friend, like if you have a friend that struggles with this, if you go out to tea or coffee with them and they're not doing so great. Um, any questions? Feel free to ask questions. Okay, with kids it's hard. Oh, yeah. So you guys have little ones, right? Um, uh, One thing that might help. Well, the first thing to figure out what to improve is to figure out like where you are, right? So like on a map. Yeah. Oh, okay. So they take up a lot of energy. You can't just send them to their room to go read a book, right? Um, so one thing you might want to adjust your expectations and just say, hey, until they're tucked in, this isn't going to happen. Um, and I know like bedtimes can be challenging at that age, and like if they're not really good yet with being settled, and not getting up and out of bed and asking for you, um, that can be stressful. But what you don't want to do is like wait for weeks or months, and then you get so used to not connecting that when they are able to take care of themselves and play quietly and read and do homework and stuff like that, like you've like years later you're still not connecting, you know so unless it's a problem, unless and that's what a lot of couples that I work with go through, is that they don't connect, they don't talk until they're fed up, and then things blow up. So um, and sometimes that happens daily. So here's how to listen to your spouse at the end of a hard day. So one thing I've learned in marriage counseling is that the desire to fix your spouse is not just a gender issue. So like dealing with the incessant demands of little people vying and competing for your time and attention sucks away empathy just as much as being male. So one of the key things I help couples with is helping them choose to listen with empathy even under stress or when feeling neglected or hurt. It's hard to listen with empathy or patience, to practice generosity of spirit when you feel your emotional needs haven't been met or doubt it will be reciprocated. What this looks like is frustration, irritation, invalidation of feelings, arguing about details, and impatience. What it sounds like is, you're always so negative. Stop exaggerating. Or it's always drama with you. So I wrote this post after watching that video. It's not about the nail. If you haven't seen it, just Google it or search for it on YouTube or Vimeo, and it's by Jason Headley, and it's pretty funny. So I recommend this Periscope. Share it with your friends. For anyone who has been told that their eyes glaze over when they're supposed to be listening, hey, thanks, Nicole. And anyone who quote unquote checks out when their loved one vents, or for anyone who's been told you don't have to fix me, and anyone who thinks that it's not about the nail video is an instructional video, not satire. Okay, so here, vents are stories, and active listening is like taking notes or highlighting and underlining when you are reading the story. So you don't have to remember all the details. In fact, it's not about the details. It's not about the nail. So when in doubt, remember this. Write it down somewhere. Embroider it on your underwear. Okay? So you start by noting and highlighting key parts of the story. And you capture key story elements and repeat it back. In psychobabble, as counselors, we like to call this reflection. Okay, so now once you have the underlining and highlighting part and not interrupting part down, and you highlight, you reflect back, you read back what you've caught. So once you do this, you're well on your way to your sweetheart feeling understood. The next level is like writing in the margins. So reflecting back what they may be feeling. Why the situation or the drama that they're caught in is so important to them, even if you don't agree. What it might mean to them and what they haven't said. What they are venting about is not about the details. It's about how they feel. So vents are stories, and there's a beginning, middle, and the end. The person venting might be stuck in the middle of their story, and you may see the end, but do not, I repeat, do not skip ahead. You must demonstrate you understand the beginning and the middle before you get to talk about the end. You can't pass go, you can't collect $200 without this step. So be patient and sit on your hands. Finally, but perhaps most importantly, vents are stories, and there is a protagonist and an antagonist, a good guy and a bad guy. And it should go without saying, but I've got to. Your spouse is always the protagonist in the story. Even when they're wrong. They are the good guy. Never get this wrong. Never get it backwards. Bad things happen. If anything you say implies they are the bad guy, or smacks of you being more supportive of the real bad guys in the story, and this especially includes kids. Don't side with the kids. Jules, your kids are young still, but save this one for when they're older. Okay? So, if anything you say implies that you are siding with the real bad guys in the story, you are already in deep water. And as mentioned, as well-intentioned as you may be, as logical as you're trying to be, as much as you want to lend your wisdom, you have already failed. You have already failed in your duty as an understanding, supportive spouse. You've failed as a safe person and as a sounding board, and the shoulder to cry on and the vent listener. Okay? So your clues that this is happening is that they are getting louder and more frustrated. So your options are to back away slowly, apologize profusely, go get ice cream, go get wine, rewind the conversation, be quiet, review your notes, and start over. But seriously, one key idea that will just never make sense or feel right to a lot of dudes is how validating your spouse feels does not mean you agree with them. That's worth repeating. Validation of feelings, empathy of your spouse does not mean you agree with them. Saying you're sorry does not mean you meant to do the thing that they're frustrated and sad and mad and upset about. Okay? So, so validation and saying I'm sorry doesn't mean you admit you're wrong. It just means you're sorry that they're upset, that they're frustrated, that you're willing to listen to their perspective, that you're willing to help them and sit with them, and you want them to feel understood, and that their feelings are not illogical, they're not wrong. It's okay for them to feel that way. Okay, so you can acknowledge, affirm, support how they feel without agreeing with their perspective. You respect their right to have that perspective. And you don't earn the right to correct their mistaken impression or perspective until you validate and catch their feelings. So often when we want to fix and be defensive, awesome. And you guys are young, so like catch this early, and this will help with the kids too when they're crying and upset and trying to you're trying to calm them down logically. But if they're crying and they're screaming and they're sad and they're upset, they're inconsolable. It's validation of the feelings first. Catch their feelings. So now this is the thing. This takes practice. It will feel as comfortable as sticking a nail in your own eyeball, but it is one of the main keys to an event going well and going faster. This is another thing. And once a guy catches this, then they're willing to give it a try. Is like, no, we do not have to have validating someone's feelings doesn't mean they're gonna rant and cry and be upset for 3 or 4 hours. See, this is the thing, is if you validate and catch their feeling early, you don't have to have a 3-hour fight or 3-hour conversation, because things escalate because the person who's trying to vent is desperate to be validated and you just don't get it. And we're going to be stuck in this conversation for hours until you get it. And it's so frustrating, right? Because and see, this is the thing, we don't want to validate the other person's feelings because we think that we're admitting we're wrong, but that's not what that means. It just means that it's okay for them to have a different perspective, and we'll work it out. So I got off track there. Okay, so a main key to event going well and going faster. So communicating that you caught how they felt when they were in the middle of that situation that was so hard, so unfair, ridiculous, stressful, hurtful, etc. So this happens a lot with like someone coming home from work and their boss, their manager, their coworker was just a jerk to them. And so we want to try to fix it and say, oh, maybe they didn't mean to do that, or they mean, like, no. If your spouse comes home and someone was a jerk to them, even if they weren't a jerk to them, they feel like they were being a jerk to them, just say, oh man, that was terrible. What a jerk. Side with them. Your spouse needs to know that no matter how you feel, that they're with you and that you side with them. So you do this, and then you get to pull the nail out of the forehead. You get to help write the end of the story when you join with them in the story and you don't try to fix them. Okay, so the end of the story may not mean coworkers become nice, that justice gets served, that kids behave, that things get fixed. It may just mean that she knows you are with her, really with her, no matter what. Under pressure, you'll forget. So write this down somewhere. Validation is not agreement. Empathy is understanding even when you don't understand. You might even tattoo it on your palm so it's the last thing you see when you face palm yourself. Thanks for listening, guys. I hope you guys have a great evening. I I did a scope earlier today. Okay, yes, empathy is at least seeking to understand, even when you don't understand. It's like, and even if we're frustrated, you can even say like, "Honey, I'm frustrated too. I'm I I feel out of control and get stressed out when I can't fix things. But you know what? What do you need? Do you just need me to listen?" Um, Once the steam gets out of the vent, you'll notice like people physically, you can see it in their body, and you can see it in your kids, like, especially when they're little and they don't speak. Their emotions are bigger than their vocabulary, and they're just like shaking, and they're just so upset, and they don't know why they're crying. They don't know why they're so hurt. Um, but just sitting with them and saying, not the solution, but naming like, oh, you felt embarrassed, you felt hurt, that was really scary, and that you're willing to just be patient until the tears stop, the upset kind of loses its steam, and then when you notice that transition, it's like, is it okay if I um, make some suggestions? Is it okay if I problem solve with you? Do you want to talk about things that you could do different? And when, or is it okay if I say my perspective? When you do that respectfully, and it's awesome, because it's not like a demand for the other person to be different. It's not. It doesn't feel like rejection of who they are and their feelings. It's really taking care of them and loving them and supporting them. Oh, that's awesome, Nicole. Okay, do it. Do it. Um, Let me know how it goes. All right. Thanks for sharing, guys. Thanks for your hearts. I really appreciate seeing, excuse me, seeing you guys here. Um, I'm trying to scope at least once a week. I'll try to scope a little bit more frequently, maybe a little shorter and more frequently. And yeah, it's a real blessing to see you guys. So take care. I'll see you soon.